Rolling in. All right, so we'll get this thing rolling. Thank everybody. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'm Taylor Clark, Director of Marketing with In-Telecom. We're excited to have you here for us for this webinar, Employees' Greatest Cybersecurity Threat to Your Business. Today, we're going to be diving into the importance of ongoing security awareness training and creating a culture of awareness in your organizations. Couple of quick housekeeping items real quick. If you have questions at any point, we do have Q&A mode enabled. We'll be doing a little Q&A session towards the end, so we'll make sure that any questions you have get addressed. During the presentation, feel free to use the chat function at any time. Our presenter today is going to be doing some interaction in there, so feel free to interact with them. So first and foremost, going to introduce your hosts. We have Sean Torres. I'm sure many of you know, he's the CEO of In-Telecom. He's going to be joining us towards the end of the presentation during the Q&A portion. And finally, to introduce our partner, Shane from Phin Security, and I will let him introduce himself.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Taylor. And it is great to be here. First off, thank you both for having us on. Very excited for this, both Sean, Taylor, and really the entire In-Telecom team. Love working with our partners to really instill cybersecurity values and education as we continue to grow and as the really entire industry continues to mature here. So as a quick introduction, my name is Shane Squarzelli. I am the sales manager at Phin Security. I've been working in the MSP industry for the last 7 or so years in a bunch of different roles in a bunch of different places. So have a good feel for great companies. And In-Telecom is one of those that we are lucky enough to work with on a regular basis here with Phin. Always happy to talk about all this great stuff when it comes to cybersecurity, when it comes to phishing, security awareness training. But I also do love sports, live music, and travel. So if anybody ever wants to chat about some of that stuff outside of this kind of normal work side of the house, always love to chat about that as well. So who is Phin? So we are a fully automated platform designed to make this as effective and as efficient as possible without overcomplicating things. So we make it where it is going to get everything you need and make it as easy on both your side of the house as well as the MSP or In-Telecom side of the house to really deliver the best overall security awareness training and phishing testing. That's really our focus, is really elevating security awareness understanding and also being able to do the phishing simulations for you as well, which we'll highlight as we go through here. Also, meet Phineas Huxley. That is our logo and our mascot. So if you see him kind of floating around throughout the platform, or if you ever see him out, feel free to stop by and chat with us. Always love talking with people who are using us actively or really have any interest or conversation that they're looking to have. So that is Phin. So diving into our agenda for today, so we're going to go through and really discuss how to properly and repeatedly offer security awareness training. What is cybersecurity and why it matters? So we'll talk about a little bit on kind of what cybersecurity has been in the past and why it's important to understand what we're trying to do moving forward. We'll also talk about phishing and what that looked like yesterday and what now it looks like today. Have a little activity that we'll go through to really kind of test your skills and really put in light what we're looking to accomplish and why we're doing what we're doing. We'll also discuss the same thing on security awareness of what it used to look like and what we're doing today in order to really elevate what we're capable of doing on that front. And then go through how to create a security-focused culture so that way we are hitting these things the right way moving forward. And again, increasing and enhancing what we're capable of doing when it comes to our cybersecurity and the focus in that culture. So first off, what is cybersecurity for you and how do we think of it? Now, this is traditionally kind of what we have thought of as far as cybersecurity. As we go through the rest of this presentation in this webinar today, you're going to see really what it is developed into, but this is traditionally kind of how it's thought about. It's an MSP or an IT guy that handles it, right? Whether you hire somebody like In-Telecom or you hire somebody internally, hey, they have it handled, they have it all configured. We don't need to worry about it on our side. It is really more of them being able to do that. And that is not the right approach in what you need to understand in order to be as cyber secure as possible, which again, we'll go through today as we go through the webinar. If my computer is protected, so am I. That used to be the case. That is no longer the case. And we'll, again, go through those pieces and where that really involves you, because there's so many other elements that can really keep you protected or leave you open for a breach. As long as I don't leave my laptop open or download anything, I will be fine. Again, something that used to be the case, there is much more well-developed in the way that people are approaching breaches and hacking, and we need to make sure we're on the top level of that. So this is traditionally how we've thought about it, but we're going to go through how we should be thinking about it moving forward. Now, why is this necessary? Why is this important? Now, the first two that you're going to see are things that are going to be required by a business, right? So we have cybersecurity insurance requires it. One of the two things that, or two of the things that we do, being the security awareness training as well as phishing, is required by cybersecurity insurance. So maybe you're already well aware of this, and this is something that you know that you need because cybersecurity is pushing for it. Or cybersecurity insurance is pushing for it. If that is something, we can basically cover that, but you'll be notified or be aware of that because of what the requirements are within that side of the house. Maybe it's something that you're working in a very specific field, so medical or financial or legal, where the frameworks that you need to abide by are pushing for security awareness training and phishing attempts. Those are two of the most relevant of why it's necessary in the kind of being forced on you. However, the real aspects of why it's necessary are going to be these next couple slides coming up. First off, 82% of breaches involve the human element. That means that the vast majority of breaches are caused by human error. Now, this isn't something where people are going and saying, hey, I'm going to open up my network, make sure that everybody has access to it, and maliciously going about that. It is usually an accident, right? It's usually clicking on something, maybe leaving something more available, not changing a password. All of that contributes to cybersecurity very intently, and that is where majority of the issues are. So this is where we need to be able as vigilant as possible in order to make sure that we are covering our bases across the board. 90% of phishing occurs in an environment with a secure email gateway. So even though we have all these things put in place to make sure, hey, we are going to be as secure as possible before anything ever gets to us, doesn't mean that we are going to be able to stop everything from getting through. So a lot of phishing will still get through, and we need to be basically vigilant on that side as well to understand where are things coming from, how do we need to deal with these, because security can only do so much. We need to be educated, and we need to understand where the opportunities are for them as far as hacking and breaches, so that way we could shut those down from the human element side of the house as well. Why is this necessary on this side of the house? Is because of 83% of companies have already experienced a phishing attack. And these are the ones that are reported. So this is the number that we are coming from that are reported. There are likely much more than this, or many more than this. These are the ones that we have in this report. And this report, I think, is a year or two old. So this has only increased since then and will only continue to increase. Between the remote workforce, between people being more digital and being able to be kind of more remote and be able to bounce around more, it is going to continue to be a prime example of where people are going, or where hackers are going to attack, because it is something that is only becoming more and more prevalent. And it is happening at a extremely frequent rate. So if you look, a breach is happening every 39 seconds. That means just within this webinar, there will be 92 breaches within this hour. There'll be 2,215 breaches today, and over 800,000 breaches throughout the year. So there is a lot of breaches happening on a very regular basis. We're going to put everything that we can in place in order to make sure that you guys are not one of those breaches. So the last piece is the financial, as far as why this is necessary. Breaches are a scary thing in terms of information and a lot of those things, but they are also quite pricey. So phishing losses cost more than $1,500 per employee, and that could put an extreme strain on the business depending on your size. Sometimes it's where, okay, well, now we have to decide, are we going to be able to pay a ransom in order to get the information back? Or do we need to pay for what people are owed, right? And that can actually put a company out of business, and oftentimes does, which is a very scary thing to think about, but we're going to put all those pieces in place to make sure that we never get to that point. The more you're dealing with money, the more you can potentially be ransomed for. So that 1,500 is kind of at the low end of the spectrum. There is a lot more that can be asked for, and again, can be extremely financially burdensome on what you actually are putting out there. It's not only a financial risk, though, and that's something that we need to consider very heavily. Whether, depending on what you're doing on a regular basis, right? You might be doing legal information, you might be doing medical information, have some other records that are personal records or sensitive info. All of that is also extremely at risk. Not only is that also at risk, but we also have to be aware of, if you are breached and there is an issue that happens within the business, that loses a lot of trust with those clients that you're working with. And that is the worst case scenario, right? We want to be able to provide the right services and do the right thing, and do it the right way for the long term, not have to worry about trying to win back trust or have some type of kind of bad conversation in terms of how secure you guys actually are. So something to focus on there as well. A lot of different risks in there, but again, we'll cover everything that we need to in order to make sure that we are keeping you as cyber secure as possible. So the first step is in this entire journey is understanding where your risk is. The majority of businesses that we speak with are somewhere within this kind of timeline of understanding and implementation. So it starts off with business might be unaware of the problem, which we'll educate you on today. Underestimation of the time investment will give you an opportunity and an ability to really solve for that as well within working with In-Telecom and Phin within there. There's not enough communication. So there's maybe not enough communication within the business. And then the expectations with employees are not set for the long term in order to really get what you need out of the platforms that you're using in order for to stay cyber secure. So the first piece, business is unaware of the problem, and this one happens all the time. It's something that maybe this is exactly why you're in this conversation, right? Of understanding where is my risk and what is the problem that I'm trying to solve for. The first part is finding the problem. The second part is understanding the importance. And the third part is making it a priority. So this being maybe somebody's first step into it, this is a great way of understanding really where your risk is, how to deal with it, and then being able to set a plan in place in order to be able to facilitate that cybersecurity training and phishing aspects. Second piece, underestimation of time investment. Who will be managing the solution? Is this a brand new solution? Do your employees already expect this? So this is something that a lot of people underestimate how much it takes in order to put together a full cybersecurity practice. Luckily, you guys have a great business within telecom that you can work with to basically facilitate all of these pieces. Again, one of the things that Phin does is we try to make everything as automated as possible. So you're getting everything the way that you need it, how you need it, and making it as little time investment with as much actual information from us as possible. So that is something that we can definitely help you with, but also needs to be understood of, we do need a solution in place. We need somebody to be able to manage it, and we need to be able to do it effectively. Next step is not enough communication. So our stakeholders bought in, have stakeholders talked with the employees, and has budget been discussed and approved. So not enough communication ends up happening where somebody says, hey, we need all of the things that we're putting in place, but nobody else has bought in on that. So it always works from the top down. We need key stakeholders to be bought in on this process, understanding what the risks are, and be able to communicate that down the funnel to basically make sure that everybody is on the same page, understand why we're doing it, what the expectations are, and what we're doing moving forward in order to really resolve the issues that we're seeing currently. The last piece of that is expectations with employees are not set. So do employees know why this is important? Again, it comes from the top down, but they need to understand what the actual reasoning for this is and what the expectations are from this. Everybody's going to have a baseline. You're going to start somewhere. The expectation should always be to be improving. We do have the metrics in there through our reporting to be able to track that accurately. So that way we can make sure that not only are we doing what we need to, but we're actually doing it efficiently and we're getting what we need to out of that. Also, what does failure look like, right? So we have pieces in play within Phin that we'll highlight later on that really show you, okay, this is a failure, but now we can improve on that and continue to get that understanding and that recognition as we continue to move forward. So between all of those, you should have an idea of kind of where your risk is between those steps, right? Identifying and being aware of the problem is going to be the first one. Understanding what's going to take in order to resolve that issue is going to be the second one. Not enough communication, or basically making sure that the communication is there, is going to be our third piece. And then making sure that the expectations and the actual results are headed in the direction that you're looking for. So everybody is most likely somewhere along the scale. We need to understand how we can help you along those lines. And myself within Phin and as well as In-Telecom can really help you across the board, both on the security awareness training side of the house, but really throughout your cybersecurity practices. So let's get into a little bit about phishing, kind of what the history of phishing has looked like and where we're headed kind of moving forward. So phishing, not phishing. PH makes a big difference in this case. So what is a phish? It is a social engineering attack used to acquire sensitive info. It can be through emails, text, phone calls, and there are multiple different ways that people can actually get you phished. And we'll go through those highlights in just a bit here. But it is basically a social engineering attack to get information from you. And these often appear to be legitimate. So it looks like it's coming from somebody that you know, or a business that you trust, or a business that you interact with. All of those are going to be very common phishes because they are something that you are going to be familiar with and what you're interacting with on a regular basis. Now, this is kind of what phishing used to look like. Everybody's heard of the Nigerian prince, right? That wants you to send them money and then they'll send you back a bunch of money, right? Well, it was very basic as far as a phishing attempt. It is going to be something that most people are going to realize, hey, this seems a little weird. This is something that I probably shouldn't be just sending a bunch of money, and really was aimed more towards kind of low-hanging fruit in the sense of people who are going to be able to react on that and not really question it so much. So people maybe who are a little bit older, maybe not as technically savvy on a lot of these things. So you can see that in that second image there, the sweet old lady that is worried about the Nigerian prince. That used to be the target, right? Somebody who has the financial backing, might be not as much as far as a full business, but is going to be an easy picking for somebody who's technologically savvy, or really has the ability to put something in front of someone that they're going to bite on. A lot of times it would also highlight on vulnerable or emotionally charged type of emails. So if we just read through this one, right, you could kind of tell this is a little bit off. It doesn't sound exactly the way that you would expect it to, but it is pushing for something that somebody who's maybe vulnerable or has some emotionally charged aspect to it. So I'm writing this message to you with sadness. I traveled to London for a short vacation, and unfortunately for me, I was mugged at a knife point last night at the park of the hotel where I lodged, and all cash, credit cards, cell phone were all taken away. I've gone to the embassy and police station, but they're not helping with issues at all. My flight leaves in less than 8 hours from now, and I am having problems paying my hotel bills. The hotel manager won't let me leave until I settle the bills. I need a loan of £1,500 from you to return back home, and want you to get back to me if you can help. Sounds a little weird, sounds a little off, but if it's somebody that you might somewhat recognize, might be something that you jump on. So this is something, again, kind of what historically phishing has looked like, and that has changed significantly into what we are looking at today. So those are kind of methods of the past. Methods of the future are what we're going to get into here shortly. And this is exactly what I would like us to kind of take a second and actually interact with here. This is going to be something actually run by Google. They have eight example phishes that we'll go through. So if you guys can go ahead and scan that QR code, go ahead and I'll give you guys about 5 minutes in order to go through this. But this will basically be about 8 questions of, is this a phish or is this not a phish? And we'll give you a really good insight into what phishing looks like today. So feel free to go through that, and we'll give you guys a couple minutes here. But much more accurate than in what we're going to be experiencing on kind of a day-to-day basis, and also what we'll be testing you on when it comes to Phin as well. And I will let you know, don't feel ashamed if you get a couple wrong. We did this as an exercise within our business as well, and I will let you know that it was very few that were 8 out of 8. So it is designed to be that way and to really show you exactly what you're going to be interacting with and putting you in that exact example. Give you all 2 more minutes on that. And as you finish that up, feel free to throw in the chat kind of how you guys did as you were going through. That will be my follow up for the end of this activity here. That's probably for the best then, Joseph. That is absolutely okay. Yeah, it seems like that's a good first step into there. That's for sure. And I'll actually mention a specific story that is just recently come about QR codes and why that's probably for the best for your side, Joseph. All right, 1 more minute. It was very entertaining at the last conference that we went through this with. We went through this, and you could see all the IT people just sweating, looking over this, going, "Oh man, these are a lot harder than I thought." So, no worries there, Bailey. You're not alone. 4 out of 8 is a start, and we can always improve. I think that's the biggest key of this. All right.
Say, Shane, if we're going to fail, I'd rather fail on a test than in real life and have a other situation.
Absolutely. No, that's exactly what we feel the same way. And this is a good example of an activity we can do now, and how Phin will really be doing it consistently for you over the course of working with us. So, but that is the exact idea, right? And I think that's about 5 minutes, so we can kind of round out there. But that is exactly like Sean said, right? The whole idea is that we want to get there before the bad guys do, and this is an example of how they're getting there now. It is very difficult to understand or to see the differences in the type of phishing attacks that people go through in order to get your information. And 4 out of 8 and 6 out of 8, that is absolutely fine. That is something that we need to improve on, so that way we are 8 out of 8, and that's exactly why we're having this. I will let you know that there was at the last conference I was at, there was 100 people in the room. There was one person that got 8 out of 8. My second question to them was, I know you got 8 out of 8. Do you think everybody in your business would get 8 out of 8? And his immediate response was, heck no. There's no way that everybody is getting that. And that's ultimately the whole reason for this, right? One vulnerability opens up the door to an entire new world of information and hacking. And that is what we need to solve for. So that activity, I think, brings a little bit of light to exactly what we're trying to accomplish here, and how much different it is from the Nigerian Prince email to what we're doing currently. So going through the different types of phishing, because it's not just email, and we'll kind of highlight those, that QR code, because it's coming from me, and I am very specifically trying to train you on those. That is something that could be basically a way of breaching as well, and I'll highlight that too. But we have phishing, so straight through emails, spear phishing, which is going to be targeted emails, SMS phishing, which is going to be text phishing, and QR code phishing. So going through these examples, we're going through kind of the different varieties. Phishing is going to be kind of your standard, right? So all the ones that you guys just went through, that is going to be a typical phishing email. Most common type, it's going to be from a legitimate or look like it's from a legitimate source, and it's going to have some type of attachment or something clickable in order to bring you to something malicious or maliciously download something on your side of the house. Again, very common, usually sent out in kind of bulk, but also very legitimate in the way that they look and the way that they're trying to get you to interact with the actual email itself. There's what we call spear phishing. So that is going to be much more targeted. So this is usually research has been done before on the target that we're looking to go after. We'll reference some personal information and utilize that personal info to seem more legitimate. So maybe they go onto your Facebook or some type of social media and see that you're involved in Habitat for Humanity or something like that, right? Go, okay, great. We can send them an email basically saying we're from Habitat for Humanity, and see if they'll get clicking on that because it's something that they trust, because they know that that's something they interact with. So this is a step above phishing, where it is much more targeted, much more personalized, and really going after you as an individual based off of things that you're either putting out there in the world or other information that they know previously. So always be careful what you put out there, but always have an idea that if it's not something that you're expecting, be very aware of it, because it could be something that is going to be malicious. And it's never hurts to give that person either a call or maybe reach out to them directly to see what the extent of that actual email is, if it is legitimate. SMS phishing and text phishing. So this is using either text or SMS instead of email. Contains either a link or something outside of the norm, or requesting something outside of the norm, and often pretending to be someone you know. Fun fact on this one, it is kind of a new tradition at Phin that somebody tries to SMS phish us every single time a new employee is hired. So they will get a text from someone that is appearing to be our CEO, Connor Swam, and going, hey, it's Connor. I don't have time to talk right now. If you could buy $500 worth of gift cards and send them to this location, that would be great. Everybody has been smart enough to go, hey, this isn't you really, is it, Connor? And we go, no. But now it has become part of our onboarding process of like, hey, you are probably going to get a text message from this. You should be aware of this. And that is another route that a lot of people go from in order to get that. I'm sure people are getting some of those texts every so often where it says, hey, something hasn't been delivered. Please click on this link. It looks a little funky. That goes either hopefully directly to your spam. If it doesn't, it's something you need to be aware of, because 100% is another route that they can phish you. QR code phishing. So very similar to how Joseph was saying that the company blocks their QR codes. Not a terrible way of going about it, because this is a kind of the newest way that a lot of people are looking to do this. So a malicious QR code that seems legitimate can be sent through email, text, social media, or posted publicly, and will take you to a malicious website or download, or bring you somewhere that the hacker or the breach wants to bring you to. Now, these are a little bit different in the sense that they can be really anywhere. So be very careful when you are scanning any QR code, whether it's within the company or outside of the company, because they can be very risky. The one that I just saw most recently was people were taking a malicious QR code, going to parking garages, and where you would scan in order to set up your parking and pay for parking, you are actually scanning a sticker that is over the proper QR code, and then going and putting your credit card information into someone that's going to steal that info. So always need to be extremely careful on that. Make sure you know what you're scanning and why you're scanning it. And if it does seem a little weird, if there's a sticker over the top of it, probably avoid that method. I think that is unbelievably malicious, in the sense that not only are you going to give them all of your credit card information, but you're also not paying for parking. So now your car is going to get towed too. So it's almost a double whammy there. But that's just the one that I seen literally yesterday, and these are always evolving. So please be aware of those as well. So going into what security awareness used to look like. Now, traditionally, there was a couple different methods of kind of how people would train on security awareness. And these were great, but they need to be kind of reinvented for several reasons. First one was annual security awareness training. So it's one long day. Everybody's training through sessions. Maybe everybody's doing breakouts. Everybody's kind of taking one full day in order to do their security awareness training, and then they're good for the year. That's great for all the people that are there and able to attend. But what if somebody gets hired the week after? Now they have to wait 11 months in order to be understanding of security awareness and what they need to be doing. What if somebody's not in for that day, right? There's a lot of aspects that do end up poking holes in that attempt. And not to say that those annual security awareness trainings are not super beneficial and can be a really useful tactic to bolster your cybersecurity awareness, but it's something that isn't as efficient as doing regularly and making sure that we're keeping it interactive. Security awareness posters. This has gotten less and less relevant as remote workforce has happened. But I do remember back in when I was working for the first company that I was working with, we had posters all over, right? Make sure you lock your screen, make sure you're changing your passwords. Those are great for the first probably couple weeks that you're looking at them. Then eventually they just become another part of the wall, right? You walk right past them, don't really interact with them. It's something that's not going to help you get where you need to go. And that's something that, again, another useful piece, but not as effective as what we're doing and what we're really transitioning to in more of a remote workforce and really just a more educated workforce when it comes to cybersecurity. And cybersecurity awareness emails. Sometimes it's one long email. Sometimes it's a document that you need to review. And a lot of times people will just scroll through it, go to the bottom, acknowledge it. And nobody wants to read multiple pages of different text and different information, right? That tends to be a very tough sell when it comes to education. We're going to resolve that with the way that we do things here at Phin. But again, all of these things are extremely helpful and extremely effective in a sense. We need to take that next step to really be more effective for the long term. So how do we do this? As at Phin, we like to kind of make sure that we're hitting these three pieces. So we want to keep it engaging, even fun. I know training is tough to say that it's fun, but the way that we do this is that we give you, we actually curate our content from 4 different providers, specifically so that way we have 4 different learning styles from 4 different vendors that basically will provide that information. And then that way we can keep it engaging. And again, these are the most fun trainings that I've seen out there. So gotten me to laugh a couple times, and definitely educational on that side as well. Now, it's not something that's going to take up days of time or even hours of time. We have every module that we have is about 5 minutes long, few quiz questions at the end. So we make sure that it's direct, it's informative, it's engaging, and it's going to be effective. It's not going to drown out an entire day of information. It is going to get exactly what you need right there. And then it's going to make sure that you are understanding it through questions at the end. So 4 different providers, couple different learning styles when it comes to live action, animated, whiteboard, and lecture style, with a few quiz questions at the end to make sure that everything we're doing in that session is going to be effective for the long term. So before I get into some of the Phin examples, just 3 things that I wanted to bring up. First one is the defender's dilemma. The defender's dilemma is the fact that a defensive side of the house needs to be effective 100% of the time, and an offensive side of the house or a hacker needs to be effective 1% of the time. So if you look at 100 attempts or 100 phishing attempts, all that hacker needs is 1 attempt in order to be able to get into and to make a breach or to breach that company. We need to be efficient every single time, and that is a lot harder than the one time that they need to be efficient. So this is where a lot of this comes into play, because you need a company like In-Telecom that's going to be able to support you and give you the best pieces of the puzzle in order to make sure that you are secure from their perspective. And we need to educate you on our side in order to make sure that you are solving for any of those pieces that we can't cover in that side of the house. So we need to be 100% efficient. And that is the defender's dilemma, is that we need to be a lot more efficient than anybody else does in order to make sure that we are cyber secure and safe across the board. Another thing that we hear a lot is that I'm not big enough to be breached. And that's not true whatsoever. If you are a functioning business, you are big enough to be reached 100%. You're just not big enough to make the news. So where you see a company like Target or maybe American Airlines, if they get breached, they're going to make headline news, right? Because they're a multi-billion-dollar company with hundreds of thousands of people that rely on that information. So they are going to be front page news. You can still have that exact same experience. You're just not going to be on the news for it. And that risk is still there across the board for every business. So we need to be vigilant in the sense of what we're doing, because we are just as at risk as any other business that is out there. Just because we won't make headlines doesn't mean that we're not just as important. And the last piece is exactly what Sean was highlighting before. We like to put you through a scrimmage. I'm a big sports guy, as I highlighted earlier. Anytime you're in a scrimmage, it is a much more game time like situation when it really matters than a practice. So educating is always important, and we'll do that as well. But within our actual phishing templates, we are going to put you into a scrimmage of this is exactly how you will be able to, or this is exactly how you can get phished. This is exactly how we are going to test you and put you in that scrimmage like environment before getting to the game when it really matters. And that is an actual malicious and actually has malicious intent behind it. So going into this now is exactly how Phin approaches all of these pieces. So the first one we'll go through is the phishing, right? So right off the bat, as far as how we go about putting you into that scrimmage type environment is these templates that you see here. So the one on the left is going to be a Microsoft invite, as far as from a Microsoft meeting invite. So this is the exact template that they would use. And each one of those links in there is going to be bring you to a malicious place. Now, this is probably the closest you get to getting me phished. You put it from the CEO of the business or someone that's kind of within leadership and go, hey, you're 10 minutes late for the meeting, hop in now. A lot of people will glance right over that, click on it, and now we're into getting phished. So again, we want to make these as relevant as possible. I'm sure you guys get a lot of these type of invites on a regular basis. And you can see on the right side, the two different platforms that we use, both Google and for Slack, as far as those. We're interacting with those on a regular basis across the board, right? Very, very typical business type solutions. Something that if you click into, that would be basically a phish that we have in our platform as well. So again, putting you through that scrimmage type environment, making it as relevant and as accurate as possible to what you're going to be interacting with on a daily basis. Now, what happens when you click on one of those? What typically has happened with a lot of other platforms is you get a slap on the wrist, you get a bunch more training that you need to do. You don't end up doing it until the last of the month when it's actually due, and then you finish it, but it doesn't relate to anything that you did previously. That is not our take on it whatsoever. What we want to do is we actually want to walk you through the exact experience that you just did wrong to make sure we correct it immediately within what we call a learning moment. So on the left here is a example phishing template that we have. Let's say we were to click on one of those links. It is going to bring us to the template on the right in a new window that goes, good thing this was just a test. Here is the information you need to be aware of in order to not get phished moving forward. And every one of the templates that we have is individualized and specified based off of that template. So they're all different, but all with the same overall learning moment experience. So the way that we walk through this is it goes through each one of the pieces that could have potentially gotten you phished. So the first one, company logos are expected to redirect users to company's homepage. However, you should always verify the authenticity of the link before clicking on such an image. Aesthetically pleasing imagery isn't what we were used to in scam emails, but today's sophisticated cyber attacks are making their emails appear more legitimate by mimicking the real thing as closely as possible. Exactly what we were talking about before, putting you in that scrimmage environment. And that's what you're going to see moving forward. When receiving emails about new accounts, it is best to confirm with your manager, admin, if it is real. That is a great tip as well. We just actually signed up for a solution. I was not sure about it. It was something that I wanted to make sure of. I reached out to my manager and said, hey, is this something that we need to be setting up for? He said, absolutely. Great. That 2 seconds made us more cyber secure and made sure that I'm doing the right thing by the business and having that information. Nobody's going to get upset about asking to make sure that things are legitimate on that side of the house. And then social media icons are successful sources of phishing because they are familiar and easy to use. Always ensure to hover the button to verify the link before clicking. So again, the whole idea is that we are going to step you through every single piece of that template that potentially could have been malicious in order to avoid that in the future. We like to say that we are a personal trainer for your cybersecurity hygiene. We are not at-home workout videos. We are going to walk you through exactly what you did wrong to make sure that you're improving immediately rather than just send you a bunch of stuff and hope for the best. So this is exactly how an example phish would go if you were to click on it. Now, training, again, we want to make this as easy as possible, but as effective as possible for you. So you'll get an email that's on the left-hand side here that basically goes, hey, this is the new course that you've been assigned. All you need to do is click into it. You don't need a password. It's associated with your email, brings you directly into what is your portal that you see here on the right. Those training assignments will basically be listed there for what you have assigned and what you have completed. And very easy to get into them. You click on the training, then you click on take, and then it brings you into the actual training. Now, again, we have 4 different providers that we use in order to vary the different types of learning style. We have whiteboard, lecture style, animated, and live action all mixed in there. So every single time that you do a new training, it is going to be a new training on the similar topics of the past. So let's say for passwords, for example, you'll have a new training this time, next time, and the following time on those passwords that will all be relevant and all be very specific in what we're trying to accomplish from that training. Again, about 5 minutes long of a nice video, and then a few quiz questions at the end, which you can see here is basically exactly how we go about it. So you click into the training, you go through a quick introduction, you watch about a 5-minute video, you go through a little bit of a summary on that video, and then you answer 3 to 5 questions at the end to make sure that everything that we're looking to accomplish is really settling in there. And of course, we don't want to just do these things. We want to make sure we're understanding what's happening here, right? So we will have this report that can be sent out either weekly or monthly. It'll give you a nice executive summary on any of your phishing statistics, as well as on your training statistics. It'll go through some graphs like the top 5 phishing templates, most clicked fish. It'll go through some of the training side of the house of completed and things along those lines as well. And we'll go directly through that. Now, the next part of this is going to be really what you guys are going to want to focus on. The first part is going to be users to watch. So users to watch is anybody that's clicked on a fish, not done the training, or both. This is a perfect look into the people that you need to be more aware of, maybe need to do a little extra training with, maybe need to just ask, hey, what are you struggling with? But this is, again, anybody that you need to be a little bit more up to date with who's clicked on a fish or not completed their training. And training reminders do go out every 7 days that it's not completed, so that will help with that also. And then for historical users data for the last 12 months, gives you a nice roundabout information of everything that's happened over the course of the last 12 months, specifically for auditing purposes, cybersecurity, insurance, any of the things that you may need that for. We will list that out for the entire business over the course of the last 12 months also. So just a few things before we wrap up here. I always consider the kind of full cybersecurity practice as a house, right? In-Telecom is going to build this super nice house around your business to make sure that you guys have the best doors, best windows, best security system, all in place. And that is going to be fantastic for the majority. The biggest risk is us as employees. We can put all those things in place, but if we don't lock the front door, if we don't shut the window, it is just as open as if we had nothing. So one of the things that we need to do is basically lock that front door or understand how to lock that front door. And think of it like that, right? Where we're going to put, or In-Telecom can put everything around you to make sure that you have everything you need. We just need to be able to do that simple piece of making sure we're doing the basics to make sure that we really instill all of the things that we're putting our time and investment into that are going to be effective both for the business as well as for personally. So always like to use that analogy to kind of put it in reference. So what does good security awareness look like? First off, training and phishing at least once a month. So we suggest at least once a month. You can do more often than that, but I think that is at least the baseline. Training completion going up, phishing rates going down. So ideally, you see more completion of the training, less actual phishing templates getting through, and less pieces on that side of the house. Do employees feel well prepared and supported? So a big part of that is what we talked about earlier, right? The communication. It's great if we're doing all this stuff. It's not great if nobody feels like it's being helpful or they're not getting the best out of what the platform is or understanding why we're utilizing the platform. So we need to continue that communication, and that kind of falls into the next piece of buying company-wide. Starts with key stakeholders, will continue to work its way down as people really put the time and importance into this, because ultimately this is the biggest risk for the business as a whole, and we need to be able to understand what that is and then resolve what that is. And we could do that with Phin, we can do that with In-Telecom, and continuing to pursue those routes. And then compliance audits, always great. I would highly suggest looking at cyber insurance if you haven't. Also, there's plenty of other frameworks, NIST, and other frameworks out there as well that could really help you to kind of align with what is the kind of top class as far as cybersecurity is concerned. So keep all of those things in mind, because all of them are extremely important in making sure we're standing this up properly. Last thing, human vulnerability management. This is for what we're trying to do, but this is really for across the board. And I think this is a great way of assessing where you're at, and everybody is somewhere in this process, and it's a repetitive process, right? So the first part is identifying the threats through assessing. The second part is validating those threats. So understanding what it's going to be, what those threats are, and understanding where we can resolve those. Then it's prioritizing them and putting something in place in order to resolve them. Then it's actually putting the actual action in place and doing the remediation. So removing that vulnerability, and then verifying. So reporting, understanding what we're doing the best, what we can improve on, and then doing it all over again. So this is again, a company-wide initiative, and involves everybody evolving in their cybersecurity practice. It's no help to anybody if you don't see something, if you see something and just ignore it. So please vocalize that, make sure that people are aware. Again, top down, stakeholders, all the way down to the brand new employee. Everybody needs to be on the same page and understanding how important this is, and continuously evolving through this process in order to really lock down what we're trying to do when it comes to an entire cybersecurity practice. Last thing, disclaimer of Phin. Security is a layered approach. So much as we were talking about earlier of that house, we can give you the education and we can give you the testing on the security awareness side and the training, but we are not just a silver bullet that's going to solve everything. Just quoting statistics doesn't communicate the full problem. That is a extensive problem that is going to continue to evolve and continue to elevate as hackers and as breaches become more intelligent and more kind of creative. So always understand that this is ever evolving, and we need to continue on it, and that there is a lot more to a secure and really influential cybersecurity practice that we are a very strong part of. But the partnership between you and In-Telecom is really going to be what gets you to that full cybersecurity practice, and definitely partner with them in terms of having those conversations, figuring out the pieces that need to be put in place in order to be there, to be at that point. They're the experts. That's why you guys have them in place, and we're here to help as much as we can. So with that, I will flip it over to Sean.
Thank you, Shane. I hope everybody enjoyed Shane's presentation today, kind of going through security awareness training and how important it is. You know, we have several conversations with clients on a regular basis about, you know, what tools can they put into play, what would be the first step, you know, and I think security awareness training and education is the, you know, first and utmost important step into making sure that your employees are educated, they understand what's going on. You know, we've been putting this into play, adapting this into HR departments inside of organizations, because in my opinion, this is just as important as a sexual harassment training or diversity training, whatever you may be doing inside your organization. These things cost lots of money. Just last year, I think the average cyber breach was somewhere around 4.2 million in cost. So big clients, small clients, it doesn't matter. You need to be educating your staff, because again, it can happen. So, you know, we've been doing this for 5 years now, working really hard on the cyber piece. We were new to IT and managed services, being a traditional phone company. We just saw a gap in the market in the MSP space where, you know, they were more focusing on fixing computers and printers, in which we do that. We wanted to take more of a cyber approach, because printers and computers don't work if you get hacked. So it doesn't really matter. We can't, it's a bigger issue to fix than, you know, setting up some firmware and some drivers on a computer. So we've built a package. We have our In-Telecom Protect package. It does include the Phin security awareness training, as well as a bunch of other tools. It gives you access into our SOC, so we're monitoring. Therefore, we can do these internal phishing attempts, give you the reports that are needed to where you have an understanding of what's going on in your organization, as well as holding you as our client accountable to making sure that you're following these practices and doing the things necessary. You know, we all get caught up in our day-to-day, and we continue to do our business. And I believe sometimes we just forget how important it is. And I think that's why putting these trainings into play and phishing internally and doing the things that are needed is so important. I laugh when Shane started talking about the Amazon gift card, because even though we're a IT company and have a major focus in security. One of our project coordinators went and bought gift cards with their own personal credit card because they thought it was me texting them, and came and brought them into my office. I thought it was a joke. And she was dead serious. And I said, why would you go buy, $500 worth of gift cards for me? I would never ask you to do that. And she goes, you do so much for us. I figured you needed some help. So obviously in her case, she was able to go return them. She didn't scratch the back of the gift cards and go send that to the text message. But again, make sure you're talking to your staff about this, making sure it's something that comes up in meetings on a regular basis. I think it's important. Make this as part of onboarding, even if you don't move forward with In-Telecom, or some other partner out there. I would be having conversations in your environments with your people, and casual conversations on, do they really understand what these phishing attempts look like? Do they understand that they shouldn't click on things and put their username and password? Look, this happens on the consumer basis as well. So we see text messages going out from a consumer basis about DHL and FedEx packages on putting their username and password in. A lot of the times you put your username and password in and then it fails. What they're doing is they're phishing for this data, and then they're selling this on the dark web. They're not always going to hack you. They may just be gaining information and selling this, to make money out there. So again, be cautious on what you put your username and password in. The main perspective is, again, the more you educate, the more you train your folks inside of your organization, the better. So I would definitely bring this up in conversation. But I'd like to get into answering any questions. Taylor, I don't know if we have any questions that we need to answer today.
Yeah, it looks like we have one from Timothy there. And I'm happy to answer that one. So if you have a suspicious email, right, there's a lot of different ways that you could work with it. There are pieces in play as far as, I believe on Microsoft, they have a report a phish button. So you could utilize that in order to report it. It also might be something where, depending on how you have it set up with either In-Telecom, or if you have somebody internally that you wanted to review it, you could do that forwarding, right? So it's, hey, this looks suspicious. Forward it to someone so that way they could review it and just confirm or deny if that's the case. There are a few things that we're working on as well within Phin to be able to do a little bit more of the reporting on that side of the house too. So stay tuned on that end. But there's a couple different routes that you can go, whether it's using the platforms that you're already using within kind of your email setup, whether it's working with In-Telecom or your internal IT team to be able to utilize that, or if it's something within Phin as we continue to mature the product a bit more on that side of the house, something you'll be able to do there. So definitely a bunch of avenues. I think the biggest thing is figure out what that avenue is, make sure it's communicated across the board. So that way you don't have one person that's just absolutely flooding it. And then the other side of the house where it's like, I'm not going to do that. Right. Just kind of make sure that you're mapping it out very clearly. And I think there's a couple different routes that we can go about that. I'm happy to talk about how we do it further if it's something that you guys need a little game planning on. So if we need to have a conversation in the future, and I'm sure Sean and Taylor would be happy to have that conversation as well from their perspective.
Yeah, I would second that. It's kind of like having a fire in your house. How do you talk to your kids about what to do if the house catches on fire? I think it's super important to just discuss these things and talk about it internally. That's the main concept behind this. Again, we can phish you, we can put tools in play, we can do all these different things. But if I think your first line of defense is discussing it, talking about it, making it part of your business process, because these things are happening every single day across the entire world, and it's going to get more and more the more reliant that we as businesses and just individuals in the world we live in today is rely on technology. So I think it's extremely important to just make this part of your culture and talk about it. I don't care if you have one employee or if you have 5,000 employees. It should be a discussion that you're talking about on a regular basis, because it's extremely important.
See, I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment. We did get one message in here from Joseph while he was on the webinar. Got a warning about from an email saying rupees 800 crore worth of railway projects for Odisha. So it looks like he was getting phished while in the webinar. Unfortunately, it looks like his endpoint software may have blocked it. One of the benefits of being in IT.
Good. He's got the right product helping him. again, we're always here to help. We're always here to do an assessment, a gap assessment, whatever you need to get a better understanding of what's going on in your business. Look, you don't know what you don't know. I always say it's better to bring on a partner and do those things. It's the same reason that I don't do my own taxes and I hire a CPA to do my taxes, because I would much rather leave it in their hands because of the consequences. I would take this approach as well with cyber, making sure that you're bringing on the right partner, making sure that your partner is eating their own dog food and making sure that the things that they're doing, so if you have vendors today, I would ask them what their cyber policies are, how are they managing their internal risk, what are the things that they do? Are they doing the annual test, and making sure that those things are done right? Look, we pay another company to audit us as an MSP just because we know that we could be a target. We are a target, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right things. And again, this landscape is changing very fast, constantly. And these are very smart people that can do the things that they need to do to get into your networks and into your environments to do damage. So again, tread water lightly. If you think it's a fish, I would verify prior to clicking on things. Always ask, if you're an In-Telecom client, please send that into our service desk. Let us take a look at it. You're never asking a dumb question. We would much rather you alert us of something and let us verify to make sure, and then we can move forward from there. So again, we appreciate everybody reaching out today on a Thursday. We're glad to continue doing education. We will have another segment coming up at the end of next month discussing multi-factor authentication. So we'll be doing some more education. If you have friends, if you have family, look, this isn't just for business alone. If people want to learn more about cyber, please share this. And we would love to get more education out there into the communities so they understand how important this is.
Yeah, absolutely. For anyone that's interested in learning more on security awareness training for your business, if you look at the top of your screen there is a schedule a consultation button. We'd be happy to talk with you. They'll take you straight to our website to get something scheduled with one of our team members. We will also be sending out the recorded presentation here in the next few hours. So if you missed a part of it, we'll be getting it over to you as soon as possible. And thank you for joining us. Shane, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Shane.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
All right,
Taylor.
everybody have a great day.